if someone said, how long a term of these purchase, the seller would say 36 months. It just kind of became the standard. And
Mhm.
now we have students getting 10-year terms. Why? We just changed the script. I mean, it's that simple. So with COVID, think about this. If the market crashed tomorrow or in 3 years, do I care if I have a 10-year or a 20-year term on a property? I really don't.
No.
I really, really don't. And so that's one piece of this. The other piece is that the buyers and the sellers right now need a guide.
Welcome to the Ask Me How I Know show. I'm your host, Julie Holly, and I'm so excited you're here. Ask Me How I Know is the only podcast in the multifamily niche replicating what takes place outside the walls of a seminar. Remember when we used to get together like that? This is like the lobby where honest, unscripted conversations take place and transformation happens. We'll talk about practical problem solving in the multifamily niche as well as overcoming mental roadblocks. This episode is brought to you by 3 Keys Investments. 3 Keys Investments is dedicated to helping people like you, you, enter the multifamily investment space to build passive income and legacy wealth. If you haven't already subscribed and reviewed Ask Me How I Know, I'd be honored if you did. Thanks so much for joining me today, and now for our featured guest. Hey guys, welcome back to Ask Me How I Know. I am so grateful to have you here listening. And today I have a really awesome guest, as always, Chris. Chris, thank you so much for joining us on Ask Me How I Know.
No, it's a pleasure.
So Chris has this really, I just have to tell the audience right now, not everybody watches on YouTube, but if you're watching on YouTube, you know I always wear just a long black sleeve t-shirt. Anyhow, check out this really cool shirt. We're matching. We're like twinsies. Chris, thanks
And
so
there's so
much.
many shirts I could have worn today too.
I know. You're kind of like Batman, right? Like black and different shades of gray.
It's pretty
It's
much black with different sayings.
exactly black and also I'm just going to do a little brag real fast, so it doesn't get left out. Is that Chris has some really top best-selling books available. I will drop links for you. You want to make sure that you check them out. And I am doing this pre-interview because I know my interviews can get away from me. I already had this one book because it's so fantastic. Real Estate on Your Terms. We're going to talk more about that throughout the conversation. But I'm not going to lie, Chris, this might be my favorite one, The New Rules of Real Estate Investing, because this right here, it shows who you are, in the sense that, Chris, you bring everybody up with you. You don't just learn, but you bring everybody up. Like rising tides raise all ships. Like your ship is rising and the tide's rising and you're bringing everybody else up. And this book right here is a compilation with a lot of rock stars. So
I
listeners, you
appreciate that.
definitely want to check that out. So Chris, Ask Me How I Know is all about like, ooh, wow, that happened to me. Ask me how I know. And can we go back, flashback? Maybe there's a little PTSD, I don't know, to
Yeah.
2008.
No, I'm good. It's still working its way out, but I'm good.
Right. Good. Would you mind just letting our audience know who might not be familiar with your story?
Yeah.
What was up with 2008 for you?
Yeah, so we had done a lot of stuff running up to '08, but when '08 hit, I had, I don't know, 22 or so properties. They were mixed bag, residential, condominium conversions, commercial, but they were all bought conventionally, meaning I signed on the dotted line personally guaranteeing it, which is a no-no. We'll talk about it. And borrowed funds, so all the things that could get you in trouble if the market crashed did. And that took, man, almost 4 years to the day to wind out, and there was still some backlash after that. So yeah, that was pretty ugly. I can
That
go back to any part of that you want, but that was ugly.
it was really ugly for a lot of people. I was in residential real estate at that time,
Yeah.
and it was a bloodbath. And a lot of people learned a lot of lessons the hard way. But you took that period of time and you didn't get smashed and crushed and destroyed by it. So what did you do that separated you from some people that we don't even hear about anymore?
Yeah, well, it depends how you define smashed and crushed and destroyed. Because I mean, I was pretty beat up mentally. Was the biggest piece, which we can talk about later. But
Yeah.
the bottom line was that in that I almost didn't go back to real estate. That's how spent I was. And I said, okay, if I'm going to go back, what are kind of what's the protocol? I don't want to say rules because it's not related to the book, but what's the protocol? Like, what will we do? And we kind of drew a box and said, okay, let's not sign personally guaranteeing loans anymore because that keeps me up. And then it kept me up for 4 more years. Let's not borrow funds from investors because same thing, morally and ethically, that keeps me up at night. And then third, let's buy everything on terms. Let's still buy, but let's buy it on terms. And to us, that means owner financing, subject to existing financing, and lease purchase. 3 ways. And so the big difference is we've got a big portfolio now, and I am not on one single solitary loan and never will be, with one exception, my personal residence. I wasn't lucky enough to find one on terms. My son-in-law did. You can. I just wasn't lucky enough to do that where I wanted to be.
um by the way, I just have to tell you, I love that you have your family involved, and that your son-in-law, it's the son-in-law thing to do in my family as well. So
That's good.
you join the family, you're joining a real estate family, you
Yeah,
just know it. So
you're in.
I love that. Yeah, exactly. So when we're talking about financing on terms, now I wouldn't say this about my audience because I think the best of them, but unfortunately maybe somebody comes across my podcast and they're like, well, boohoo, poor me. I just can't find a deal. And they have that little, you and I know they do this. They have this
Yeah,
pity party about that's just impossible. You can't find owner financing.
agreed.
Let's speak to that person right now.
All right. So the only thing in the way there, and again, I'm not trying to step on toes either, but the only thing in the way there is that person, right? It's the headspace. Because yeah, here's the deal. When I said I was beat up mentally, the reason I'm tying that to this answer is this. We teach the same exact skill sets to every single student. Why then do some students do a deal in 42 days? That was it. That was recently. And some take 365 days. That was also recently. Why? It's all up here. It's 100% mental. So aside from the skill set. So to that, I would just say you need to do 2 things. You need to put your guard down, number one. Number two, you need to wipe the slate clean of what you know or think you know, and then go seek out someone that can show you the path. And I don't mean just you or just me. I mean, whoever's in your niche. There's a bunch of niches, as that book you held up shows. It's not just our niche. So go find someone that's like ran the track and ran it through a bunch of cycles, right? Got beat up a little bit, and then follow them with blinders. That's the answer, because success leaves clues. Don't try to go recreate it.
Oh, preach it. Success does leave clues. And so let's just take a moment and talk about the power of mentoring. I know at different points in my life, I mean, we pay for coaches, we pay for mentors, we pay for
Yeah.
that for a reason. There is a value to that. How has that served you well in your career?
Yeah, I'm going to go the opposite. The only 2 times I didn't have a coach or a mentor. Now I just figured this out like 2 years ago. It didn't dawn on me. There was 2 times I was crushed. '08 was one of them. Early '90s, yeah, like '94ish was another one. And I thought back just recently, and I said, wait a minute, I did not have a coach. I did not have a mentor. I did not have someone I could go to and say, this is happening. Like, what the heck do I do? And that was the problem. And why didn't I have a coach? Because I got too cocky. Oh, it's going great. I'm all set. I don't need it. That both times I said that, and so I don't do that anymore.
I know.
uh, there's a coach for everything. Every 6 months to 12 months, I have a coach for something, whatever it might be that we're seeking next.
Chris, that sounds super great and everything, but you know what? I've got LinkedIn and I've got Facebook and I've got connections to all these awesome people. So really, do I need a coach?
This is really good because directly to your point, here's my kind of theory on this. I'm not saying it has to be, because we're big on free, because the internet offers free. There's a whole plethora of information you can get. So I encourage that. So here's what I say to do: go get all that, and then within all that free stuff, figure out, I like this niche. I can get behind it. I can get passionate about it. Then step two, find someone in that niche you can relate to, like morally, ethically, value wise, family, whatever it is to you that you can relate to that person, he or she. Then here's the tricky part: put the blinders on for 3 years. 3 years. It's not long. And don't deviate. So when I said to you that we kind of drew a box and said, what's our protocol coming out of the crash? That's important, to not get any shiny object syndrome. Super important.
The moment you put skin in the game, it changes things. And there's so much free information out there. But once you start paying for something, now you have this level of accountability and you're like, oh, I want to put that to work because that's money that I'm spending.
Yeah. Okay. So this is interesting because yesterday my son-in-law said to me, we both coach and my son does too. And he said, I moved him into a little bit higher level coaching that I usually only do. And he said, man, are they more fun to coach? And I said, okay, so let's talk about that in the mastermind call. So last night we had all the levels in the mastermind call. I said, we call it high six just for reference. And I said, all right, guys, why are the high six more coachable? Are they more coachable because they're high six, or are they high six because they're more coachable? I said, what is it? I said, you guys think about it. I don't have the answer, but it's commitment level, because it costs a little more.
And that
That's all.
commitment is everything. And like you said, you have to be committed for 3 years minimum. Like just be 100% sold out, all in.
I
Total,
think
total
so, or else you end up on the sidelines in that pile that you said, like, oh, it doesn't work, or it doesn't work for me, or it doesn't work here. Yeah, that's because you jumped every time you took a course to some other course. It doesn't work that way.
it doesn't work that way. So you're back in '08. We're gonna have a little bit of flip flop going on here, I
Yeah.
think. And that is, so we're back in '08 and you have created this, okay, these are the steps that we're going to take. Will you share a little bit about those steps?
Yeah. So I didn't know the answer yet. I just said, I'm not going to sign personally on bank loans. I'm not going to go out and borrow money. I couldn't get a loan anyway if I wanted to then. My credit went from, high sevens to high fours if I was lucky, or low fives. It was ridiculous. So it's not that I could do anything about it. I just said, if ideal world, let's not buy anything from a bank and sign for first. So let's just not do it. So then I started digging around, talking about looking on the internet, and I started saying, okay, since the late 1800s, I could find books on lease purchase, owner financing. Like, it's not new, but no one really put together like a system to support someone learning it and then getting it done. Like, no one we call it bridging the gap. It's the only shirt
Yep.
we have. The time from a course to a time from getting a deal done. And so many people stuck in that gap that you said earlier. I never did a deal. We've had, get this, Julie, we've had numerous, but I can think of one student in particular that got to six figures spending before, and he still hadn't done a deal before he got to us. So his wife said, "You're not doing another program. You're not." And now she chuckles because he's part of the community. He's one of the top earners. But he was almost a casualty because he was pivoting course after course after course and never doing a deal. So that's what we ended up doing back in '08. What do we have to do to get to the point where we have a system that people can understand, not just us? And then I just started doing it by myself. I was all by myself in end of 12, beginning of 13, starting to do deals on terms, and then slowly built my assistant, and then my son, and then my son-in-law, my daughter. Like, it just slowly built up to what it is today.
That's amazing. Absolutely amazing. Well, if you wouldn't mind sharing, without giving away, the ranch and everything, but would you mind sharing with some of the pros and some of the pitfalls? Because some people think that they understand finance, like buying on terms,
Yeah.
and they toss that term around, and they really don't understand, and they end up a casualty.
Yeah. So you want the good and the bad, in other words, right? So we'll talk about the goody and the bad then of terms, and tell me if this nails it, and if not, I can go back. And that is, the good is, we've created a system where it's 3 paydays. We've actually trademarked 3 paydays. And that means we get money up front. This is the ideal business model for any business, actually. Money up front, money monthly, and then money long term. That's pretty cool.
That's a
So
very
that's the
cool
good.
setup.
Yeah, that's easy to say. Okay, that's the win. And we average like 75 grand a deal with all 3 paydays. Us, the students are higher and lower. Now the bad would be, there's good structures and there's okay structures, and then there's, oh, I screwed up structures where you lose money. Why? On the seller side, talking to the sellers,
Yep.
if you're not structuring a long enough term and you pay all the money, you're gonna get it on the chin somewhere. Because the reason I say that, we can pay top dollar for how we can even overpay. We can pay premiums if we get enough term, especially on owner financing. So it's just not having someone by your side. Quite frankly, I hate to go back to that same exact thing we talked about, but our students are able to call and go, "What do I do? How do I do this?" Like, tap the community and find out how to do it. It's without having someone that's already treasured a path. It can be dangerous. And then what I was referring to is just when you don't have someone to lean on. Like, it's easy to learn it and it's easy to go to a seminar. I get it. I've been there. It sounds great. Most of the seminars are not like us. We're clear, blunt, and to the point. It's one of our values. So when you come to our seminar or read the book, there's a chapter that says, what can go wrong? I've had mentors, and if I said the names, they would know. I've had mentors that said, why are you doing that? You're going to scare people away. And I say, no, you're making it flowery and fluffy, and they go out in the streets and they get beat up. So even though you're going to learn the good stuff, you still need someone to lean on, in my opinion, and say, hey, what about this and what about that as you go? There's no better way to learn than interactive. And so if you have that, you won't take another chance.
Yeah, absolutely. It's imperative to have that. When we're thinking about the people, we have a few different buckets of people. So we have, say, the person that is, they are just beginning. They just went to the first seminar. They just, picked up your book. You have the beginning person. You have the person that's in the middle, where maybe they haven't done a transaction yet, but they're close to it, or they've done one. And we've got somebody that's they're going for the high six group, right? They,
Yeah.
like, so what's the next step for each of those people?
Okay, so I'll just go in order. We have all three, by the way. This is an interesting question. So the new person, it's more of the blocking and tackling. In other words, the basics. We have all of our programs can handle all three of those levels, but you are certainly going to be in that category of let's put the blinders on for 36 months. That's number one. But number two is this: expectations for the new person. This is a biggie because online and at seminars you get this $1 million tomorrow business potential, right? So I'll be the first to tell you, no, that's not going to happen. Can you get wealthy over time if you're patient with this? Yeah, incredibly. But when I say patient, you could be in the 42-day category or the 1 year, and you can't bum out about that. Because when you start talking about 75 grand, all three paydays per deal, I had a student on today, we did a video on it, who did 180 grand, all three paydays. How many of those do you really need to do to learn how to do? So who cares if it took you a whole year, right? So
Right.
that's the beginner. The one that maybe is on the cusp, I think it was your second category. Like I almost have it. Okay.
I almost have
That
it, or
sounds
maybe
like
I've even done one.
okay, so they got a little taste maybe of a good thing. So that sounds like they just need that's someone that needs to jump on the train with a mentor, in my opinion. Like if you did that, just kind of toying a little bit, and you tasted it, what it could look like, or even you saw what it could look like, jump on with someone that can show you the path. Again, any niche doesn't matter what niche you're in. And the ones that are experienced are pretty fun to coach, to be honest with you, because and we just had another one kind of migrate to the terms business. A lot of the wholesale people, I don't know if you heard this, are definitely moving to terms because it's not one payday. You know, you're not spinning plates like a job. It's nice wealth building, and in this economy, they are flocking to us. And so he just said, "Look, I get what I do over here with wholesale. I think he did like 170 wholesale deals, but he
That's
wanted to
so
learn
much
this business.
work.
Yeah, it's a lot of plate spinning. It's like I might as well go get a job. No offense. I know I got a lot of friends in wholesale, but to me, it's a job. So he came over, and to coach him, he has the vernacular, he has the work ethic, he has the discipline. That's all there. I just need to insert how to get a terms deal done. It's probably going to be a 4 month learning curve instead of a year.
Right.
But they're all
Right.
good. All those categories are fine. In fact, I like the mix, to be honest with you, in our community.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun. It's fun to see people, spreading their wings and becoming the successes that they can be, because
That's why you
everybody
coach.
can.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's what I love about people go, why do you coach? Why don't you just do more deals? We do a lot of deals as a family, so that's why we're able to stay on the cusp. But until you coach, you won't get what I'm about to say. And all that is it's great to see if Julie's a student, Julie go from A to Z and change their family. Like we have 8 people or 10 maybe this year that went full time. Now, granted, COVID gave them a push, right? Probably, but they still did it, and they still have a lifestyle. And they're still home with their kid now instead of getting on a plane. Like these are all real stories. That's
And
fun to see.
and you get to be that fingerprint in their lives forever of like, that was that moment. They were
Yep.
willing to do it, and they took the advice and put it to work.
Yeah,
That is
and you know what else I learned, Julie? Sorry, I don't think people leave relationships as easy as they can leave a business. So our community is really close. We call it surprisingly the Wicked Smart community, and they're very close. They're like a lot of them will say, "I don't want to leave." It's like family. So that and people don't want to leave that bond, and that's why they're able to succeed.
and that's a very unique part to this coaching program that you guys have established, and is that you have people that are peers. So you have a leadership tier, and then you have, I mean, they can see everybody along the way, but it's kind of rough when you enter something and you're low man on the totem pole and you're the only one. But if you enter and there's some other people and you're at the starting gate together and you can
Yeah,
encourage each other and aspire upward, game
and
changer.
usually pull each other, right? Someone in the group's
Yeah.
pulling someone, and then they all kind of get the light bulb goes off. It only takes one, and yeah, when you have a group like that environment that you just said, that's what happens.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so true. As we are going into and you and I've been, I mean, you have far more experience than I do in real estate, but I was raised around the real estate community, not even around it, in it. I mean, we know the real estate cycles, and I'm sure you've been asked this a million times on podcasts, since COVID. I'm not asking for a crystal ball, but
Yes.
I value anyone who came out ahead, of the '08 recession. I mean, you definitely did that. So, what are you doing? What is Smart Real Estate Coach doing to prepare for this next transfer of wealth?
Yeah, two or three things. One, we started pre-COVID, knock on wood, very thankful we did, and that was just virtual. And two was we started right before COVID, and it wasn't because it was probably like the end of 19, and that was longer terms. Like we used to say, just part of our script, it's like the 4 minute mile that got broke. Remember?
Right. Yes.
So it was mental. We used to say, if someone said, how long a term of these purchase, the seller would say 36 months. It just kind of became the standard. And
Mhm.
now we have students getting 10-year terms. Why? We just changed the script. I mean, it's that simple. So with COVID, think about this. If the market crashed tomorrow or in 3 years, do I care if I have a 10-year or a 20-year term on a property? I really don't.
No.
I really, really don't. And so that's one piece of this. The other piece is that the buyers and the sellers right now need a guide. They do. Like I still have sellers going, oh, I didn't even know. Like, can I sell? The realtors can't really show it. No, they can. And yes, you can. And like, so they just don't even get what they need a guide. They're screaming like, I need a guide. And so we can
Yeah.
be that in the terms business. So that's what we're doing. We're prepping for longer terms and we're making sure we're well prepped for virtual. The buyers and sellers accept that now, luckily.
That's amazing. When you say that you're well prepped for virtual and you're already going virtual, what does that actually mean? And what was the impetus to actually go that direction?
Yeah, good question. Mostly workload for us as a family company, and we live on an island here. So, by the way, another side note for those of you that say, "Well, I don't know if I can do it in my area," we live on an island of three towns, and the population is very small. And the market's always very hot, so we can't buy as much here on the island. We have to leave a bridge on either side, and so it's a long drive to get to go do properties. So we started saying, what if we had boots on the ground? What if we could just do this virtual, but have someone show up at the house, maybe do an inspection report or whatever, and get back to us? So we started doing that, and then the FaceTime and or Zoom started becoming, hey, walk me through the house just so I can get a better idea before I come out, or if I don't have to come out eventually. And so it just became the norm with us, and everyone was asking, even a year and a half ago, hey, how can you do virtual? Like everybody would love to do that before COVID. So now it's
Right.
perfect. Yeah.
It's amazing because you were like completely a forerunner in that.
On accident. I can't say I knew.
Oh, come on. I know you have a crystal ball down there.
Yeah, really.
Just pull it out, please. We want to
Yeah.
see what's happening. Oh, wow. So, when we think about going forward, and I'm thinking about some people that maybe they have not positioned themselves well, and they even already have something that they own on terms right now. I'm trying to think about some of the questions people would
Sure.
die to ask you. It's like, oh, crud, Chris, I've got a term, it's coming due. It's, at the end of 2021. And
Yeah.
what am I going to do about this?
Well, everything's negotiable, right? So if your contract's set up the right way, frankly, even if it's not, it's negotiable. And you can get it set up the right way. Here's the plus: not to take advantage, so to speak, of what's going on in the economy. But if you're stuck, or you think you're going to be stuck soon, please use, and I mean that in the nicest way, like utilize the fact that there is chaos right now. The fact your sellers do know that there's a problem going on, and you need to say, look, because what's going on now, this needs to be reworked. We need to rework this. And so they don't want a default. They don't want a headache. Not with everything going on, they don't. They don't usually anyway. So it's a renegotiate. You just need to get a little bit of a backbone and get in there and renegotiate. Now, I'm happy to help. At the end of this call, remind me, I'll give you a link and we'll do a free strategy call if anyone's stuck like that or just wants to talk about how could I do this in the next, century, whatever. I'll talk to them on a free strategy call. I'll give you at the end.
Okay, and I have to ask, like, I love that you're going to live for the next century also. So you have a crystal ball and you found the fountain of youth.
I don't know about that. I should have said decade, but I'm good with that.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Now, there are some very ambitious people out there who really want to, um, capitalize, and that's just it. And there's nothing wrong with that. They really want to make the most of a down economy. They
Mhm.
want to, just be part of that transfer of wealth. What are one or two, three things that they could do to position themselves? They just decided this yesterday. They're brand new. They're like, you know what, this is what I'm going to do. I'm getting a coach. I'm signing up a smart real estate coach, number one. What are the other couple of things they could do?
Okay, I'm going to go back to a few things I said and piece it all together. One is making sure, I don't care if it's us or not, I'm not so naive. If it is, wonderful. Thank you for saying that. But whoever it is, manage that expectation out of the gate. And then once you're in the trenches, please be aware of and block like armor all the shiny objects that are going to come your way. Because even within our niche, there's niches within niches within niches, and you are gonna be tempted to get thrown over to the side. There's a video we have when you come in, right? And it says all the things that are gonna happen. Like you need to know this, put your arm around for this, and even still, they'll be 90 days in or 120 days in, and they'll say, "I'm following everything, but I don't know. I think I should be having more success." Like they get hard on them, really down on themselves. No need of it. Absolutely no need of it. So if you can get to the coach, because you just said they're going to go get a coach, that's great. And if you feel like you can't, resourceful wise, let me tell you how I did when I was broke. I called around and I asked people, I said, look, I get this program. It was 25 grand. I didn't have like a grand. I said, I know I can do it. I know I can do deals this way. I want you to fund it. I will give you 33% of every deal I profit on until you are 100% return on your money. That's a win-win. If they trust you, that's a
I
win-win. That's
love
how I did
that. Oh, that is, you were already negotiating your own terms. I love it. But I would never, like, that was like so outside the box. I'm grateful to hear that because, like you said earlier, terms are negotiable. And like you said, it mentioned about somebody coming up on a, end of a term, like renegotiate everything, and everything in life is negotiable. That's a
it.
great approach to it because some people do believe in themselves and they just don't have that money and don't want to put it on a credit card.
Well, here's the other thing too that they should know, even if it's not them in this category, but I'm not an expert on the whole IRA 401k thing with COVID, but I do know basics that I've told my community. You have until the end of this year, as of now, maybe they'll extend it to get money out of your 401k or IRA with like a 3-year payback. Check with your administrator. And if you don't have that and you say, well, I don't even have that, how could I call around, ask family, ask friends, do you have money sitting there doing virtually nothing in a 401k or IRA? Yes? Okay, great. Listen, here's the deal. I want to join this program and do it that way. It's sitting there dormant, yours or theirs. So go ahead and utilize it and get after it.
Yep. Yep. That is so great. I love it. I want to switch gears for just a moment and talk
Sure.
about mindset because you have referenced back to that mindset that you had in '08 and just,
Yeah.
being beat down. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people right now that are feeling that right now. Can you
Agreed.
talk about what you experienced and how you worked through that?
Yeah, I told a story at our virtual event last month. We do 2 a year, and it was pretty ugly. I was, and I'll shorten it, but I was telling us, and then it'll lead to the mindset. I was telling the story of how bad it was, so they knew. Like my community knows my stories, but every year I peel out a new one. And they go, "Oh my God, I can't believe you did that." So, because I still have more, I'm peeling back the onion as I digest it. There was a time when we were pushed into involuntary bankruptcy. This is back at the experience I had in the 90s. And that means subcontractors basically got pissed off and said, we're pushing into bankruptcy. It only takes 3. So I remember sitting at my desk with one of my vendors who trusted me, liked me, wanted to help me. And he walked in my office, and I was so scared. We did 2 things. I had a gun on my desk. He reminded me of this like recently. And then in our office building, we built a wall. My builder partner built a wall so people couldn't come up. Like that's how scared we were. So we got beat up pretty badly. When I came out of those 2 experiences, I said, I thought I was good. Like I thought I was ready to go after the 2012 thing I told you about. But I don't know if it'll work. You can't do that again, or you already got beat up. All those things creeped in, the drunk monkey.
Yep.
And I get it now because I'm way past it, but I didn't get it then that I was so messed up mentally from it. It like just beats up your confidence big time. And so I mean, that went a little deeper probably than you needed to do on
No,
this show, but
no. I really appreciate that because when you're talking about once you get beat down on something, and you have to go back into that situation in a sense to in order to gain that confidence. But you have to face
yeah,
it, and it means you have to face the demons also. I mean, that's a big deal.
it is. It is. So, okay, so back to some practical things I can do with that. I think it takes, look, you got 365 mornings for the next year, right? Mornings. So just if you took 5 minutes in the morning, I'm working on my whole community with this right now, and get some kind of a resemblance of a morning routine. It doesn't have to be crazy. I'm talking about 5 minutes. so that you start each day powerfully. That's going to be one little thing you can do. For me, it's grown. I stack a little bit each quarter, but for me, it's working out. I can't start the day without either workout or yoga, and then it's meditating. I used to think I was crazy. I used to think that was absolutely nuts to spend time on that. So now there's apps that guide you through it. This isn't like it's brain science. And then something read or listened to, and sometimes I'll do all three or four of those at once. You can read on a stationary bike. You can bang out some of these at once, and then gratitude. And I used to think that was crazy. But when you're in a state of gratitude mentally, it's a completely different state. And when you're in that state, things happen differently. So if you could put yourself in a state of gratitude, even for a minute in the morning, you are better off, period. So all of these things stacked up. We have a course called the 31-Day Billionaire. I'm sure you're familiar with Dr. Joe Vitale from The Secret.
Yep.
So Joe and I, my son-in-law and my son, filmed a program called the 31-Day Billionaire, so that the community every day have a video for 31 days. And I tell them, go through it, skip a month, go through it again. Like, keep going through it. It starts their day with anywhere from 3 to 8 minute video. So all these little things will start to stack, just like a workout, your mental capacity. So that was a kind of a long answer to your question. That was a good question, though.
Totally fine. But actually, I really like the correlation how you said they stack, because I think about it, I think you and I both work out and everything. And it's like, when you're working out, you're building muscle and you're building layers, and it doesn't just happen overnight. It's a process, especially if someone's coming out of being, if they're out of shape, and you just have to build on that. And what you're expressing is the same thing. And a lot of people maybe haven't made that correlation between mindset and building on it and growing in that same capacity.
Okay, so let's take that exact same thing now, because I was just thinking as you were saying that. Okay, so that got me back into business. But then the next block was, there's another shirt I had on yesterday. It says "Muscle Your Way to a Million," and it's just a bicep with dollars in it. And because here's our theme for the spring. That our theme is, okay, you're an entrepreneur, you're a solopreneur. I don't want to degrade or water down the fact of getting to a million, but in my opinion, in hindsight, getting to a million now just means a little bit more muscle, like more follow, more call. Like, you can do it by yourself. You really can. I've done it several times. But to break through that, it's a different mental game, because what got you there is definitely different than it's going to cross the line. So the theme for our next event is cross the line, because it's a different mindset and shift. And so that's what we're working on next with our community, because that's a whole different ballgame, but it's all mental. It's mental.
What would you say if you gave it a percentage? When I think about how much of things are actually like mental versus how much of it is knowledge or skill, how would you split that?
Yeah, in our world, because I see people take the course the same way, but they all come out of the tail end differently. I'm going to say it's probably very, very strong past the 50% mark of mental. Like, I who knows? I'm not a statistician, but 50 to 75% anyway is mental, because you can't do anything without that. I don't care what you do. I can teach you till I'm blue in the face, and if you're messed up with that piece, and we can help. But if you're messed up with that piece, you're going to leave me eventually. You are.
I love it. Yeah, and it was purely an opinion, but we throw stats around. My kids are little middle schoolers, and they throw stats around. We'll just say, hey, 75% of the family is feeling like this.
That's awesome.
So your stat is totally legit, because it's your perception. Now, you have been. I have one final question as we wrap things up, but I mean, you, like me, we both share a love of real estate. Nobody sticks around in real estate, and I go in and out in different capacities in real estate. But it's like, I love it. I'll never get away from it. It's like a passion of mine. What is one thing you absolutely that just continually draws you back into real estate?
Yeah, that's an easy one for me, because as soon as this stops, I won't be in it. And that is, the deals are never the same. Never. So people say, well, just teach me, why don't you give me a formula? I get this all the time. Which deal goes with a sandwich lease and which deals goes with own farm? I said, every single deal is different, and every single deal actually could pivot to a different bucket every time. Bucket meaning exit. So the fact that it's always variety, I get bored too easy. My brain doesn't work with the same stuff. So the fact that they always change is what keeps me intrigued.
It is. That's one thing I love. My husband asked me, because I am very much raccoon, like shiny object syndrome. And that's been something I've had to overcome in order to grow successful. The success pattern is like you said, those blinders are imperative, absolutely imperative. But it's never, he's like, aren't you going to get bored? And I'm like, no, there's always something new. Every single day, there is something new and another way to serve people. And it's always shifting. It's
100%.
fantastic.
Yeah, 100%.
I love it. Chris, are there any other gems that you'd like to shower the audience with today? I know.
I think you said something at the beginning. We were either off air or maybe it was the beginning of the show. You said something about the fortunes being created. In my opinion, and it's just my opinion because nobody, even the billionaires, don't know where it's going. In my
Yep.
opinion, the next 9 months or so will be a chance, especially the 3 payday system, to parlay some serious wealth. It really is. And so don't miss the window. I'm actually starting to think that's going to be even longer, like the next year. So don't miss the window. Don't be the one that says, a year from now, end of 20 comes, 21, and you
Hmm.
say, "Oh, I wished I did when I heard Julie and Chris talk about that. I wished I should have. I should have." Like Tony Robbins says, "No, just take action now and just grab onto someone and do it with them."
Oh, amen. That was one of the most painful things is that my husband and I did not understand terms. We didn't understand everything that we have learned at this point in our journey back during the last crash. And
Mm,
we saw people, and this is like the most frustrating part about it is that we saw people doing it. He was in residential, we're both in residential real estate, and we were seeing these investors and seeing other realtors that understood and they were
yeah,
putting the pieces together. And they really, some people would go, oh, they cleaned house. But I see it as a win. They protected a neighborhood. And so, listeners, if you're thinking, oh, that's really selfish and greedy, it's not, because when people go in and they buy a home and they turn it into a rental, when they go and they sell that home to someone who wants to be the homeowner, you're preventing a neighborhood from going into a down cycle and blight, and anything to prevent that is fabulous. So everybody, as I always like to say, everybody wins. The
yeah. You know
investors.
what else you're doing? You said it. You nailed it right in the head. And you know what else you're doing with that neighborhood? You're actually affecting generationally
Oh,
two families every time you do a terms deal. It's the healthiest deal, in my opinion. Every time you do a terms deal, you're affecting for generations that family that thought they couldn't sell or couldn't buy. In our case, because we do rent owns. That's pretty big. So, and you won't get paid. You won't be successful. This is why it's not greedy. You won't make 10 cents if you're not helping someone. You just won't.
I love it. Absolutely love it. Chris, thank you so much. Now, you have the best way people can reach you and any other places or links or anything that you would like to
Mhm.
share.
Yeah, if they don't mind listening to me babble for another half hour, there's a free webinar that my son-in-law Zach and I do. It's on our website, smartrealestatecoach.com. And I said at the beginning I would do this for your listeners, and my team will definitely slap me for this, but 'cause I don't know how big your audience is. But if they go to smartrealestatecoach.com/action, they'll be asked a couple questions like, "Have you done deals? Have you not done deals?" There's no wrong answer. It's so we understand who's getting on the phone, and then you'll get a live call for about 15 minutes with myself, my son-in-law Zach, or our strategy expert Brian, and you'll leave with some nuggets. Or if you're stuck, we'll help you get unstuck, or at least direct you.
You know what? Sometimes we have to have that nudge, that push, and that's the power of coaching and being around people that even sometimes, like you're saying, that 15-minute call, maybe it's that I need that push, that nudge to go into a coaching program, and this is the best fit for me. Or maybe it's that push to just, I think we all know inside what we need to do. We just
Right.
need that like little just
Yep.
get going.
Yep.
I love it. Chris, thank you so much for your time and for joining us today.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for joining me for another episode of Ask Me How I Know. This episode was brought to you by Three Keys Investments. They are dedicated to helping people like you, you, my awesome listeners, develop passive income and legacy wealth through multifamily investing. Feel free to check out their website, threekeysinvestments.com, to see if there's an offering that will help your portfolio grow and meet all of your needs. If you haven't already rated, reviewed, subscribed, liked, all of those bells and whistles, I would be absolutely honored if you would do that for Ask Me How I Know. Thanks again, and go make it a great day.